For staying with us. A towering figure in Nigeria's modern history is gone. Former President Muhammadu Buhari has died at the age of 82 on Sunday in a London hospital after a prolonged illness. The former president, who was a former military ruler and two-term civilian president, shaped Nigeria's political landscape for over 4 decades. From his military leadership in the 1980s to his return as a democratically elected president in 2015, Buhari was known for his tough stance on corruption, discipline, and national security. His death marks the end of an era, as President Bola Tinubu described him as a patriot, soldier, and a statesman who served Nigeria with unwavering dedication. Condolences from other leaders and citizens are pouring in as the nation reflects on the legacy of one of its most influential leaders. Joining us in the studio is the convener, Campaign for Dignity in Governance, Razak Bulukoba. Good morning. It's good to have you join us.
Thank you very much.
We also have via Zoom convener, Social Rehabilitation, Grace and Support Initiative, Dr. Oludari Marindoti. Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Veronica. Thanks, everybody. Thank you for having me.
All right, let me begin with you, Dr. Marindoti. Talk to us what you remember the most of former President Muhammadu Buhari, who passed on Sunday. A lot of statements have been coming in concerning his time in office and what was expected of him. And the former President Olusegun Obasanjo said he did his best while in office. A former Minister of Foreign Affairs says that former President Muhammadu Buhari is one person that was misunderstood. From your perspective, looking at these two statements, how do you perceive the persona of former President Muhammadu Buhari and his time in office?
Thanks for that question. This is a very, sad period for the nation in general, regardless of your political divide, we can but, understand that the man was definitely a complex human being like everybody is, and everybody's history is going to be checked out at the end of the day. I could remember back in the 90s, growing up under Babangida regime, and my parents would tell me about the order that, Buhari brought. A lot of people may not remember that the, Environmental Sanitation Day that we have right now was started by him doing this as a part of his war against indiscipline. I could remember also the first time I actually was actively engaged in electioneering and campaigning was for Buhari. I actually sang the song for him in 2014 into 2015, condemning the PDP and all. And this man, came into office. He's a man of utmost, incontrovertible integrity. Even his fiercest critic, even fella that went to jail under his military rule, could not criticize him for being corrupt, which is, we know what he said about other leaders. So this is a testament that even his detractors admit that he is a man that is very of utmost uprightness. And, when we look at also his history, his sojourn from being a military man, this man came in at both times when Nigeria was in dire need. And he was a soldier that soldiered on. I'm not going to, advocate for truncating democracy, but even when he came in 1983/84, that was during the time where we had the oil glut, and then the price of oil in Nigeria was so low that, the regime of Shagari was unable to, cope with the bills of Nigeria. And Buhari came in and tried to bring sanity into, the system. And, which he did achieve. However, maybe some of the economic policies that probably might have been needed to diversify our economy at that time were not followed through. But we have to understand that even the coup that brought him in was maybe the least bloody coup, and the one that took him out was bloodless coup. This was because the man never resisted. He didn't do it because of his quest for power. He did it because he wanted to make a change. And when people decided to plan a coup against him, he did not fight back. And if you fast forward into the, Abacha regime when it was brought back, I think the only light in the tyrannical regime of Abacha was probably, Muhammadu Buhari with his PTF fund, and I was able to efficiently, manage that. And then let's now fast forward to his coming back. This man also taught us perseverance. It is not easy to try to run for, office 4 times. And, it typifies the saying, first you don't succeed, try and try and try again. He kept on trying and he won. So even his detractors should be able to learn from that perseverance. And when he came into power, we can't forget the fact that at that point too, the world also was having an economic change, and these things both in the 80s and in 2015 when it came to power were not things that Nigeria could control. It was essentially a lot of trouble in the Middle East, and the Middle East and the West fighting, and then there was those economic challenges that brought down the value of oil, which was the only thing that we were trading. So the value of the currency had already started being devalued before he came in. So he came in like a soldier, like a knight in shining armor, in an attempt to rescue the country. And we must not forget, so he met that economic downturn, which he was riding through. And then by his second time, there was COVID-19. COVID-19, nobody was moving. All factories were shut down. So we were not making money from oil. So which was also part of what exacerbated. So while people, our economic, doldrums, so while people might blame him, we should be able to show a bit of sophistication in interrogating with the history of this man that, yes, like they will say, the road to hell is paved in good intention, but good intention is the first step before you can actually get yourself out of an economic downturn. So this man had good intention. He was a patriot. You might not like him. He might not have been able to achieve the things he wanted to achieve, but you cannot in any way deny his good intention and his love for his country. And, this is a sad period. My condolences my heart goes out to his wife and family. And just before I wrap it up, I must also say he was a funny man. We all remember the other room, which is going to now be closed since the general with the key has hung his boat and reading into the sunset. And it's going to be, after this period of mourning, a period where we have to celebrate his life and be able to contextualize the history and the richness that his existence has brought into our polity and to our nation.
Right.
All right. My question will go to you, Mr. Lokoba. Vera said earlier on that a lot of people say that Buhari was misunderstood, and they see a different person, and when they go closer, they see a different person. He was also accused of over-delegating. Do you agree with that?
I want to start by saying that he has lived two lives in the mind of Nigerians. He came first as a military president, and that time he had access to fiat to do whatever he wants to do, his decree. So when he came back, he needed to be very meticulous. One of the things that he was accused of is that he raided people's house, and in fact, he was accused of raiding Awolowo's house that time, and many other people, and many other things that he did. So he had that in mind when he was coming on board. So before he takes any decision, he will consider the pros and cons, and we should give that to him as a president. The return of Trump, a lot of things have shaped his life. They have stopped insulting media people and many other things. His return has also shaped Trump's life. He still have this strong attitude, but it has changed his life. And that was one of the things people felt bad about, that he was not taking decision promptly as he used to take decision then. And you see, African continent needs to be very careful. It's a borrowed system of government, democracy. See, if we go too far with this borrowed ideology, we are going to harm ourselves. And we keep warning that let's go at the pace at the pace we are going. Buhari came, and I can consider 1999 date as a part of our gestation period. There are things that, to meet up, to catch up with the rest of the world, we can't rush it. So when Buhari came on board, of course, he didn't restructure, he didn't do this, but as rickety as the political structure of the country is, he was able to do a lot of things. My colleagues have mentioned quite a number of things that he has done. But the first thing is that the means of livelihood had to return to Nigeria. I remember very clearly that people were making their pathway to Cotonou, Niger, and our neighboring countries, because as at that time, Jonathan's government was unable to sell our oil again. So the debt is there. 19 state government couldn't pay salaries as at that time. So because of his goodwill and because of his perception in the mind of the rest of the world, Paris Club, London Club, IMF, they had confidence in Nigeria and they brought more money to inject back into our economy, and the economy started. What I will say is that we placed too much demand before our leaders, and that's why you see successive leaders in this country who look for any means necessary to impress us.
How do you mean too much demand? I mean, if you're a leader, you say that you can deliver, and the people trusted you with their votes. So when is it too much?
If I say I can drive you, you expect me to take your destination safely. You don't expect me to run the car just because I want to impress who are not in my shoe, who don't see what I say as a driver. So that's what I'm saying, that the pace at which they want him to move, he may not be able to move with that. For instance, we contradict ourselves in terms of what we want as a nation. We don't want to add the question of sacrifice, the question of price to pay to come out of where we are. Nigerians don't want to listen to that. When they buy the importation of certain commodities, for homegrown commodity to be able to grow, you have to relax it at a point. And for homegrown economy to survive, there must be zero tolerance to commodities and things we can produce in Nigeria. Tinubu is battling with it. They are still telling me that his policies are too harsh, and we didn't know that it's late in the day to say that we are not going to pay price for coming out of where we are. So that's part of the challenge Buhari had. It's not only him. When Obasanjo was in office too, he was described with all sorts of language. Yar'Adua didn't stay long. The same thing with Jonathan. So, and we are going to have that picture about Tinubu too. Only people who have a debt will know that the direction Tinubu is going, in 4 years' time, a lot of things will have changed. But that's the attitude about Nigerians. And his foreign policy, the foreign policy of Buhari has saved us a lot of things, because you can't survive in isolation. He has made friends across the world. Through delegation, he may not be there physically. And look at the interconnectivity that he is attempting to do from Nigeria to Niger. And political class starts using it as a black man, say Fulani man, he wants to run away, he wants to go and live in Niger. Africa must be one. We must have one currency. Our economy, I don't have to go and be buying dollar to buy something in Ghana or in Benin, which is the case. Gaddafi came and felt that I can make call to Ghana, and it will still first go to London before you now come back to Ghana. So he built a satellite for us. It's about one that gave us GSM. Gaddafi did. He put down $400 million. Other African countries complement with $100 million. That was why we had GSM today. So Buhari had that in mind too, that our foreign policy must be sharp. We can't survive alone. If we look at the perception of the rest of the world about Africa, no responsibility assigned to Africa in economy. So we have leaders like him that are attempting to do that we have to harmonize. We have to, if Africa must survive, there must be unity in Africa. Now, a delegate, Nigeria's president is compulsory for him to delegate duty.
No, in his own case, he was accused of over-delegating. So if he gives you a job and says, do this job, he just forgets about it and moves on.
The way leadership emerge and the way leadership see things differs. So I should describe him and Tinubu differently. There is a coach, he will give you brief. When you enter the field, I won't be shouting on you. If you misbehave, Nigerians will judge and you come out and meet me that you play out of contest. That's not what I asked you to play. But Ashwadi is a coach that will shout at you, don't come back here if you don't score that goal. Don't concede goal, Mr. So, two different styles. And it has its own merit and demerits. So for Buhari, he's very meticulous about the people he brought in office. If you look at Fashola, if you look at Amici, if you look at Fayemi, and these are guys that have played role in their own respective lives and they have excelled.
That's right.
So for me, there's no question of over-delegating. Nigerian president don't have than to over-delegate, because look at security report only. Let's take that for instance. The police report is there. Immigration, custom, DSS, Army, Navy, only
There's
on one
a whole
president.
lot for the
So
president.
only on one president. And the economy is there. All of that things are there. That the president must look at. So he needs to be sure that you are capable of delivery. Once he appoints you, the ball is in your court.
All right, Dr. Marindoti, let's come over to you. Former President Muhammad Buhari earned himself lots of appellation, including Baba Go Slow, which our guest in the studio was trying to, rationalize that he was used to taking his time before he took certain decisions. We also heard Nnamdi Kanu referring to him as Buhari of Sudan, at the time, saying that he's a clone and, so many other things. But some of the people that he also brought in power, he left in power was Emefiele, which actually tainted his administration, talking about the Naira redesign and the botch program that he brought on board, which killed a lot of Nigerians, and Nigerians have not forgiven the administration for that. But as a doctor, I want you to react to the fact that some critics are saying he had the time, he had the opportunity to govern Nigeria well in terms of medicine, in terms of health sector, but he bungled it. For instance, he died in London, for instance. And so people were saying that if he had made Nigeria a hub or a place where people should come, where we have quality infrastructure, no head of state, no president, or no one will be having to go to other countries to the extent of dying there. What's your reaction?
Well, I'll start with the, over delegation and Baba Gosto. Sometimes a gift can be a curse. You can't, be perfect. It's either you are too agitated and in everybody's face and annoying, or you are cool and too calm. And there's always that lapse. So, there are two, like we were using the analogy of a coach. We can think about Carlo Ancelotti, who won the highest number of Champions League. He doesn't talk so much on the line. And you can look of also what's got Antonio Conte, who is like veins popping out of his forehead during the game. And they are both, good coaches. So everybody has his own style. The old nonsense about Jubril or whatever that, all of them were coming up with, it was just so preposterous. And, like I said, he was a man of great sense of humor. He himself would even laugh about it, But when you think about the idea that the fact that Buhari died in London, and people try to simplify this as meaning that he has not done so well in terms of the the healthcare sector, it is just oversimplification, and it is not an intelligent analysis. And I know that Ali Pati addressed this with I think her name was Addition, one of these YouTube journalists that met him at an airport. Let me ask you a question. If you brought Walter Reed or John Hopkins Hospital and put it in Oshodi, how many people will be able to afford to go there? Not a lot, because it is healthcare also is tied to the economy. So when you resident, you want to deprive him of the means to go out and get himself treated anywhere. Even in the United States, a lot of people, or your United Kingdom, people do medical tourism. You might be going from the US to Turkey or to Mexico because it is cheaper there, or Brazil. You might be coming from like Zlatan Ibrahimovic. He came to the United States, even though they have good healthcare in Sweden, because there was a specialty that he needed. And we know that he had this particular problem that led to him going to London during his administration. So when we want to consider the issue of the healthcare sector in Nigeria, it is a convoluted, complicated thing. It met a lot of like I've always said on this program, the main problem that we have with our health sector in terms of manpower was the reduction in training of doctors, nurses, and everybody. And these were legacy problems that he inherited, probably failed to address, but still inherited. And if you want to change the healthcare sector, it is not something that can be achieved within just a mere period of 8 years. If we don't fix our economy, we can't fix our healthcare sector. Like the Yoruba people have always said it finished, that the money you don't have, you can't use it to treat your diarrhea or dysentery. So that should be a non-starter in terms of the fact that he died somewhere else. That was where he was getting the best treatment possible. It is part of human rights. Everybody has the right to go to wherever they can afford, and he was able to afford it. So we should not try to taint his administration based on that. But there were a lot of strides also that were, made in the health sector when he was there. He tried, he really tried to, even when you look at the social security scheme that he created and that was exploited. So sometimes when you look at it, the problem of the Buhari administration is the problem of Nigerian people. I'm not blaming the people in general, I'm blaming our value system, whereby you put some, take advantage of the trust and the leeway that they have. If it was in another, what's it called, climate, like maybe the United States or somewhere else, like Saudi Arabia, the people there were citizen enough to do the right thing for their people. Buhari wanted to do the right thing for his people. He believed he selected the right people, but some of them failed him. And so we shouldn't really put all of that blame on him.
Okay, let's bring the conversation back to the studio now, Razak. Two things. One, he's going to get a statewide burial. The country is already, the president rather has already declared 7 days of mourning, and the vice president has gone to, escort the body back into the country, and the burial is expected to happen today. Beyond that, how else can he be immortalized as a former president? That's on the one hand. On the second hand is that based on some of the things that Dr. Oludare Marindoti said, that some of the people he brought into office failed him. Would you say so for the Ankobora scheme as well?
The way President has handled his death, I am impressed. And he deserves everything we give him to celebrate his death. We have to teach the young people the importance of role model and mentorship. Buhari is worthy of emulation. If you look at his lifestyle. In fact, there were rumors before he died that some of the bills he can't put it. And if you turn around to say that there are people who worked on who didn't do well, people must be assessed based on their performance. The best government in the world produce people like the ones they mentioned. The best government in the world, even under Awolowo, there were people who didn't do well under Awolowo. There were people who didn't do well under Sardauna. And till today, all of us agree that these forefathers of ours should be emulated and they are worthy of emulation. Buhari should be ranked among them. During the Civil War, if you look at the role he played during the Civil War, he was not a deserter. He defended this country very well. And eventually, when he came on board, his colleagues said he should come and lead them. And those are things that young people should look at. When he came back as a president, doing this thing for civilians too, if you look at his emergency, they said, they bought his form, he didn't have money. So we want leaders like this, that you will leave power and won't be hearing Ali Bottom case, the Slumberger case, the Gulf War that was ascribed to Babangida. We didn't see, when he was there as the former head of state, we didn't hear of any looted Abacha fund or Buhari fund. Yeah. So it came at a time when Nigeria had a challenge. And that is why it's a lesson to Tinubu now. Any policy you want to embark on, ask Nigerians that there are prices for every policy, so because we're in a mess already. So all the things he did at that time, they were priced. We are not willing to pay the price. The health sector people talk about. See, if you shut down access to foreign care now, don't go abroad, this and that again. I need to be the first people to come out. You didn't fix your own, you are shutting down, and you can't get perfection with this alternative. You can never get perfection. That's how nations are built all over the world. You pay the price, people who suffer the decision will suffer it. But Nigerians we just want El Dorado to happen in a day. So for me, Buhari should be celebrated and given everything that he deserves. He's a good leader. The young people should look at his lifestyle and emulate it. Then the people who work under him. For the people who work under him. As much as we have a Mifili, we have Fashola. Yes. We have Amici. Amici is not in APC today, but that does not mean to forget what he has done. The railway line he did. Yeah. We have former governor of Fayemi, he laid a proper template that the current government is benefiting from in terms of mineral resources. The policy that if it is behind your how that we fund this, there must be some. We want food resource.
Even though he was reluctant to shuffle his cabinet.
Yes,
in his first term. Because
consistency matters. This shuffling of cabinet creates crisis of perspective. No consistency, and when a policy is coming up, it will face its challenge. That's when Nigeria will say, remove him. Another will come with say remove him. So he was a master of consistency. He was committed to consistency.
So how should he be immortalized because of our time? Quickly.
Well, the usual way President Nigeria immortalized, all the places that his name should be done. And National Orientation Agency should begin to tabulate names of Nigerians that did well for us. We tabulated our own, though, the civil society, and at the appropriate time, we will bring certain people to book for the bad they have done. In his own case, we have also tabulated him as one of our great leaders. So if National wants to do anything good for Nigeria, one of the initiatives they should use is people like Buhari have done well, and tell the young ones that you must be careful with your role model. Your role model determines a lot in your life, because that's what the young people don't want to do. That if you don't want mentorship, if you don't want to see example, you will lead at your own time, but you will not lead well. So Buhari is a nice guy.
That's right.
And the fact that he had very few people that worked under him should not have this administration. That should not be used to judge him.
Okay.
Lagos is bad, is there?
Hang on. Let's quickly get Marin's perspective on how the former president should be immortalized.
Thank you, for that question. When we leave, we leave, or what's left is our memory. So his story is definitely going to be what's left. I believe, we don't have this culture yet, but I think we should start having like a presidential library where we have details, histories of his achievement. We have to understand he made a lot of strides in opening up the economy. He signed the new electricity bill, which was amended by, which is also further amended by President Tinubu. He did a lot of things. He gave us, June 12th, recognizing the role of that. So he did a lot of things. I feel like definitely with the different states, Katsina, the nation will definitely name monuments around him. I can expect President Tinubu to, come up with some in a short few days. But I believe one thing we need to do is to, have like a presidential library for him where we can, document, his history. From the military school to, the Civil War, everything. And then we also need to keep him in our history. Thank God history is being brought back. We need to teach because this man has an incontrovertible virtue. He was a man of noble means, and we can always emulate that.
Indeed. Gentlemen, Dr. Oludare Marindoti, convener Social Rehabilitation, Grace and Support Initiative, as well as Razak Olukoba, convener, Campaign for Dignity and Governance. Thank you for your time on the program.
Thank you for having me.
Great.
Thank you.
Still ahead on TVC Breakfast, tributes pouring for former President Buhari, known for his anti-corruption stance and efforts to stabilize Nigeria's economy. That will be the focus of our next conversation after the break. Stay with us.